Good morning and welcome back to United TV. We're going to go through some of the latest Manchester United news, transfer news in particular. And one of the things we're going to be talking about to start with is Manchester United's midfield targets. And this one might be dependent on who remains as head coach. So the options there, it's not an expensive deal. He's just been crowned Championship Player of the Year. He's worked under Michael Carrick as well, so Carrick knows exactly what Hackney can do. Hackney obviously has developed loads over the last couple of years, has really improved. He was on the radar a lot. He was linked to moves to top Premier League clubs in January. In the end, I was quite surprised no one actually tried to buy him in January. The price tag was about 30 million in January. I believe it's going to be the same at the moment. And this feels like it would be a very good value deal, a very good option for Manchester United and actually other clubs. He would know what Carrick needs. Also, Carrick would know what the player is capable of. And I think this could be one of the deals we get done. If we're going to spend quite big on any other midfield targets, if we want to make sure we get three players in, this sort of deal would probably mean that we could spend whatever we wanted on the other two targets. So this is probably for me an interesting one. It does depend on whether Michael Carrick's in charge, I believe. I'd imagine that there might be a different route if there was a different head coach appointed. So this is a good story, I think, in terms of like where we're going to see Manchester United go. We probably get Champions League football secured, I'd imagine, and then maybe we're going to make a decision on head coach. But at the moment, the head coach situation being a little bit up in the air is probably maybe delaying things a little bit. I would rather it was resolved, but I think given that the situation at Manchester United, that if Manchester United get Champions League football, I think most of us will acknowledge that that's going to open up a lot more opportunities in the transfer window and potentially different players, potentially different head coaches. If you're looking at trying to replace the head coach, there could be different. A lot of things could change. I'm guessing that given there's 4 games left to go, Manchester United need 1 point. It'd be quite nice to just beat Liverpool and then get it completely secure, get it completely done, and that would be good. But no, this is one where I got a few other stories as well to discuss. There's updates from Real Madrid's side regarding Tchouaméni about the likelihood of him. Obviously, Real Madrid, they see him as a key player. It's not going to be easy. I see exactly the same things being said about probably about Tonali as well. That Tonali would be a difficult deal. So when we're looking at some of these deals that are going to be quite difficult, the thing that I would look at primarily is that there's going to be some very difficult deals, like very difficult deals we know. It would be quite good for Manchester United to actually get some easier deals done quite quickly. There's a World Cup coming up, get a couple of deals done quite fast, and there's probably a few deals we're looking at that are going to be the ones we can do quickly. So, welcome Jim, Neil, Cody to the chat. And Funchy, good to see you guys. Also, Rob, I saw you earlier on today, so good to see you. So no, this is one of those deals where this can potentially be done very quickly. A little bit like, I suppose, if you're looking at Alex Scott as potentially a deal that could be done quickly. Angela Stiller is another player that we've been talking about regularly. That deal could be negotiated with Stuttgart. There is a bit of interest from other clubs, but that's something that would be not incredibly expensive. Maybe about £50 million or just over gets that deal done. So this feels like it's in terms of value actually pretty good. So I'll go through a few of the comments. If you've got some thoughts on whether it's a good deal, then let me know what your thoughts are regarding this one. But just having a look at this comment. So just to go, I'll go through a few of these. Then hopefully, for some reason, it's not coming on screen. Give me a second. I'll just have to do something. Let's get the live chat engaged. So let me know your thoughts, and I'll put the comments on the screen, and we can go through people's different opinions regarding this one. But yeah, Cody said he was crowned Championship Player of the Year. Exactly, he's on the way up. £30 million for one of the best players, well, the best player in the Championship at the moment is a good price. I thought he was going to be going up a little bit more, but the price in January is probably the benchmark where he's going to be going. And Hackney is the right player, right price. I'd say interesting point. I don't know exactly. I think the football side of it. I think as long as my understanding is as long as things are going okay, and Manchester United at the moment in third position, things are going well results wise on the pitch. I think the Glazers are going to be more hands off. So in terms of like the situation regarding the head coach, then when Amron was struggling early on in the season, there was a lot of talks about potentially the Glazers stepping in and removing, taking a bit of control and removing Amrin. So I don't know. I think as long as things are going okay, as long as like results are actually and things are moving in the right direction, I think Ineos are up to making that decision. I think that's going to be the situation regarding this one. So Neil says you hope that United get Hackney. So if you're looking at the deals, and I think you've got to look at the overall midfield structure and what Manchester United are trying to do. If Hackney costs £30 million, then you've got Tonali, who we know is going to be incredibly expensive. We also look at the most recent update regarding Tchouaméni, and this is coming out from Real Madrid side of it. And to be honest, this actually has been pretty much what they've said last week and recently as well. So reliable sources, lots of journalists. In fact, actually, everything I've seen regarding Real Madrid's stance on Tchouaméni is that they don't want to offload him. They want to keep him. There's a contract offer on the table. They want to keep him at the club. I think has it been announced? Is like Mourinho actually going back to Real Madrid? I think there's a. I don't know if that's been confirmed. There were people talking about that last night, but potentially things that happen beyond Manchester United's control, like completely beyond our control, are going to be factoring what other clubs do. So the fact that too many is wanted by Real Madrid, I don't think Real Madrid's stance changes if Mourinho becomes head coach there, becomes manager there. But it might be that a change in manager might change too many's opinion. So if you think about this is the way I would look at this story. If you look at Real Madrid's club and you look at too many, if too many wants to leave the club, but then they change the manager, this is pretty much exactly the same as Kobe Mainu. Like we have a head coach where Kobe Mainu wants to go out on loan, and then we have a situation where now Coman has announced a 5-year extension, staying at Manchester United until 2031. So I think things can change quite quickly in football. So the fact that Tchouaméni was reportedly wanting to leave, I think this is going to be one of the more difficult deals for Manchester United to try and do. So in terms of this situation, I think Real Madrid will have a priority of which players they want to leave. They'll have certain players they want to keep. Apparently, according to sources as well, that they're actually very impressed by how Tchouaméni's developed over the last couple of seasons. They don't want him to go there, so they don't want him to leave. So it's going to be tricky. Afunchi says, "I love Hackney so much. He'll give Kobe a run for his money. I want all our players on their toes because someone is there to take your place." It's about having a bit strength in depth, isn't it? That Hackney will also have to progress loads to get to the level that Manchester United want in our midfield. But Hackney is potentially going to come in with like, Coleman's got a lot of international experience as well from a couple of years ago. I think there's essentially quite a lot of positives for getting Hackney. He's young, enthusiastic, driven. He's got a lot of ability. We know what he can do, and his progression over the last maybe 12 to 18 months has been really promising. So I think that Hackney is definitely up there in terms of when we're looking at the Championship, and we've said this. This is I'll bring this back. I'll come to too many in a sec. But when we're talking about players to sign from the Championship, you get good value. You can get some quality players. There's a lot of players that have gone through the Championship and then proven that they once they prove themselves in the Premier League, the price usually doubles. So Hayden Hackney for me is one season away from being the same price Alex Scott would cost. But there's no doubt in my mind that if Hackney went to a Bournemouth, for example, and Bournemouth have another strong season, then Manchester United would be paying at least 50. Like there's no doubt. Like a year of Premier League experience seems to add a decent amount of money to the price tag. So that's where Manchester United with this one. I think we'd be getting in at the right time, a little bit early. I think it would be a positive move. We did talk about this last season, and maybe last season, potentially it would have been a good idea because United, we didn't have a big squad. The thing I would say is, if Manchester United bought Hackney last season, he probably wouldn't have played many games. So only having the Premier League, we would have had Casemiro, we would have had Agate starting under Amrin, we would have had Casemiro plus Koemenu playing under Carrick, and I don't think we'd have seen loads from Hackney. He might have got the odd game, so it's probably, I think, for Hayden Hackney's perspective, probably the right move to stay at Middlesbrough and put in a strong season. So it's probably good for United in the long run that we didn't actually get Hackney last season. Hackney has had a lot of games for Middlesbrough, developed well, and I think that's positive. So, yeah, I like this. It's about competition for places, isn't it? But yeah, but not in a nasty way. It's also about Hackney will get plenty of opportunities, and so wasn't Sanderberg in the championship? I can't remember. He might well have been. He's played for a few different teams. He might well have been, but he was on the Sanderberg was on the radar with a couple of people I know about 5 years ago. So I think if you watch young players, he was definitely going to be. Yeah, he was definitely on the radar. Graver says Madrid wants to sell their other midfielder. Is that Camavinga? I think Camavinga might be the one that Real Madrid are looking to offload. But has there been confirmation about Real Madrid's manager appointment? Because for me, that you know how things change massively when you've got a different head coach, different manager in charge. And I think I remember the different energy when Manchester United had Mourinho. That meant we could get Zlatan. So there are certain players that will look at Mourinho if he is appointed as a good thing, and maybe too many is one of those people. And Yannis says, let's trade Dallo for too many. I think there was interest in Dallo. There was interest in Dallo. The question I've got is that do you trust Manchester United to get the midfield sorted? Maybe look at left back cover, maybe look at centre back cover, possibly a left winger as well, and get a right back Yardley. I mean, I'm actually still hoping that as long as Man United fix midfield, we will at least have got a lot of the things done, and hopefully that'll be the linchpin for if we can't get too many, I hope we find out quite soon because then it gives us a lot of opportunity to look around the league, look at other options as well. Maybe if too many's off the table, it does kind of force a hand to go for a different player. In which case, my best bet would be Manchester United, whether you agree with it or not. I think Tonali or Angela Stiller might be the most likely because I think they want to get someone that's got experience. I think they would prefer Premier League experience, but no doubt too many's European experience is phenomenal. So I think too many kind of ticks all the boxes with probably the most experienced player we've been linked to this window. So this is probably the one where I think it's the hardest deal because if Real Madrid effectively improve a lot next season, I think it's going to be very difficult for the powers with too many, isn't it? So if too many doesn't want to leave, he doesn't leave. It's as simple as that regarding that one. So let me go back to Hackney for a second, but again, I'll jump in the comments in a minute and just see what people are thinking. But this shows that there's a few factors beyond Manchester United's control that I think Hackney is one that you can get done irrespective of our other deals. I don't think signing Hackney influences whether Manchester United try and go for Angela Stiller or whether they try and go for Tchouaméni, Belieber, Tonali, all these more expensive signings. I think if you get someone like Hayden Hackney in, I think effectively you're getting a good replacement and a big upgrade on probably Toby Collier. Toby Collier, unfortunately, injuries have hampered his progression. He was on a loan spell at Hull. He's struggling a bit because he doesn't get loads of games over the last couple of years. He does keep getting injury setbacks. And I think this would be something that, maybe a couple of years ago, Manchester United see Collier as potentially developing into a useful player. But I think Hayden Hackney would represent probably a good value signing. And you could also look at Hayden Hackney is being kind of earmarked to be sold. I don't know how much you'd bring in, but 30 million for Hackney, it's getting close to a no-brainer, isn't it? That there's a few deals where you look at and think they're genuinely actually quite yeah. Yeah, he played for quite a few teams. I know somebody that lives in Leeds, or he lived in Leeds at the time, that went to watch him play. I think he was playing for Sheffield United, and I don't know. This might have been possibly 4 years ago, but he played for Sheffield United. And a friend I know that's actually been a guest on this channel as well. He was very impressed with Berg when he saw him play in real life. He said he's actually looks a bit pacier on the pitch, gets around the pitch a bit more. I think sometimes people were thinking Sanderberg might be quite slow, but no, according to my friend a few years ago, he is actually quite good when you watch him live. Neil says Hackney's got a calf injury, so he might not play in the playoffs. That would be a shame, actually, considering what he's done this season. That would be a bit of a shame. But should I put a poll in the comments about whether Hackney we should buy for 30 million? I mean, the fact that he's coming off a high as well is a positive. I mean, it would be quite nice if he could play in the playoffs, so you can see him like actually trying to finish off the season strong. But it would be quite disappointing if that happened. Yeah, really, really disappointing. Gregory, you're right saying Barcelona, the Rashford situation, and it looks a little bit like that. I don't know the situation with Camavinga, but I think Camavinga's got some injury issues. And I would say that with Real Madrid, that if Real Madrid don't want too many to go, I think that tells you all you need to know. That he is probably one of the best options we could buy this summer. If we get the deal done, and Real Madrid are looking to keep him, it depends. Like too many might change his mind and decide to stay, but I think it's quite difficult, isn't it, to try and it's quite difficult to imagine what's going to happen at the moment. But no, they want Camavinga to go to Manchester United. We have to look at that and say, no, that's not sensible. Debassa says at that price we can buy a couple of good ones. I think when you start looking at that price, then if you start looking at the Hackney price, I'm going to just be alternating between pictures depending on what I'm talking about, just so people can follow. But now, if you're looking at the Hackney price, does it become a deal where it's almost like a I don't want to use the term no brainer, but it almost seems to be the situation where it's a very good deal. It also doesn't really impact any other signing we're making. If we sign Hackney, I think it's going to be a very good player in like potentially the development. It's difficult to predict the development, isn't it? I think he's going to improve, and we've seen this season he stepped up. He's the best player in the championship. That's obviously, I think the bar is raising as well. The players that are good in the championship will potentially be decent players in the Premier League. So we have seen this quite a lot in the past. So let me just put a poll in the chat. Welcome, Lumen. Welcome, Viril. I'll answer your questions in a second. I just want to put a poll to say, because again, um, this is a judgment call as well. So if United don't buy Hackney for 30 million, you've still got João Gomez, who's only slightly more. You've still potentially got Fernandez at West Ham if they get relegated for almost the same price. So there are options out there. I don't think it's not about if Man United get Hackney, it's going to be don't get him, it's a disaster. But it is possibly one thing is if Manchester United are genuinely interested, I think we get him because Hackney. If but it does probably depend on Carrick staying. So I'll put 30 million is the price. I mean, the price is not going up. The price is good. So it's a good price. It probably depends on head coach situation being resolved in the way of Michael Carrick being in charge. But that's something that I think gets decided if we get Champions League football. I think it's going to get resolved pretty quickly. That there's no point in delaying it too much. Either there's a candidate out there you want, or you look at if you're going to keep Michael Carrick, you can then get Michael Carrick. The players know what's going to happen, and so I think some of the players like Hayden Hackney might want to know who's going to be head coach before he joins because of the situation with Mainu early on in the season, with Ahmed Jallo, etc. So if you've got a head coach in charge, which you know is going to be giving you games, going to be wanting you at the club, it's going to certainly going to be an improvement. So let's have a look at some of the comments as well. So Hackney. So Hackney is Savril. Hackney was a player we talked about a year ago. He was played at Middlesbrough. He's obviously still played at Middlesbrough. He's the Championship Player of the season. He was linked to a move to. I think Spurs were the most proactive, like trying to sign him in January. But he was a bit like he was 30 million. I think Spurs looked elsewhere and bought different players. In the end, they got Gallagher. Manchester United have been linked to him. I think the only issue with Manchester United was we just got Carrick. We had no idea how it was going to go in January. We didn't know if it was going to be as successful as it was. And I think Hackney is a signing that is probably suited to, he suits very well what Michael Carrick does. If you look at Manchester United now, they're not exactly trying to do what Middlesbrough did when Carrick was there. Carrick has to work with the players he's got. There is definitely a scope for Manchester United requiring a more a more proactive attacking fullback to try and do what Carrick's doing. But no, Hackney would be a good player. It would represent obviously a bit of a boost in midfield, but also £30 million means we can try and get Tchouaméni plus Tonali, or still no, we can still sign any two midfield players you'd like, and the price will be still significantly lower than a couple hundred million for three people. So I think at the moment, if you say who is the bench option or first team candidate, I would say he's he's going to be one of these players that imagine like Alex Scott a year earlier, or look at some of the players that have maybe suddenly become on the radar after one good season in the Premier League. I think he'll be something along those lines that potentially he's got a decent ceiling, but you'd be looking at the moment. he probably isn't going to be a first team candidate if you've got Menu plus a Belieber or Wharton or Anderson. Any of those players would link to. I don't see Hackney displacing them, but I could definitely see him getting opportunities. But again, it would be difficult for Hackney. He'd have to appreciate it's going to be a different situation. Like, he's not going to walk into the first team. If he does walk into the first team, I think we've got some issues. I welcome him into the chat. And Debastis is saying Hackney plus Stiller is a better deal than Tonali. I think the thing is there is a lot of different players out there, isn't there? A lot of different options that when you put them together, yeah, it's pretty clear to see that there's options on the table. And if you say Tonali as how much is he going to cost? And when I see stories about this one, this is like the Tonali situation. It's that apparently Newcastle want to sell him. So apparently Newcastle putting him on the transfer list. He's available, but they want significant money. So the thing that's off-putting about Tonali is I think Newcastle might want. When you look at Isak, he sold for probably too much money, in my opinion. Like, he's a good player. If you're looking at Tonali, I think Tonali's good, and I think someone was in the comments last night saying that they would like him. He's a good player, but it does seem to be that Hayden Hackney. So it does seem to be that Tonali would potentially cost so much that there's better options out there. That Tonali's obviously Garte as a player. You got Tonali's like way better. He would be a big upgrade on some of the options we had last season, but is it too expensive? I think that's that. I think he's good, but I think Newcastle's valuation is really high, like really high. So if they want 100 million, I don't know. Is there any player in the Premier League that's worth 100 million that makes a guaranteed difference to your team, like beyond any other player? Because I think even Anderson is a very good player. He's definitely not worth 125. If Forest were 125, he's not the best midfield player I've ever seen. Like, he shouldn't be, for me, the crazy sort of thing. Um, I did do a stream yesterday about Tonali Agate sort of swap, and just to clarify that, it's not a straight swap. There would be significant money. It would be like Manchester United giving them Agate plus maybe 50 million, something like that. So there's no such thing generally as a swap deal, although they're quite often talked about. They don't often happen, but sometimes you can see deals where there is potential, and you can see that happening. Quite often, there's more like a triangle where you get, say, Atletico Madrid buying a player from Atalanta, possibly to replace a certain player that left. They have a player leaving, and you have this triangle of different teams. If you think about how transfers are more likely to happen, it might be that Real Madrid buy Rodri. That means that too many can leave the club, or they try and move Camavinga out. Manchester United potentially tries to get one of those players, and then there's a bit, and we see Anderson that we would like actually going to City. So you kind of get this kind of maybe it's more a domino effect, but I think swap deals are tricky. Um, Gamara's might be. I think you spelled Gamara's name right. I'm probably not pronouncing it correctly, but I think Gamara's is probably a better option. He is a bit older though, so Gamara's about 29. It's kind of tricky to see. It's difficult to see Ineos going for that one, but also I don't think he'd be significantly cheaper because he's considered like the best player in Newcastle. So Newcastle United fans and Newcastle United as a club, they see Bruno Guimaraes as the most consistent player. I think he's going to be a player that because he's like nearly 30, I don't think people are going to be. No, I don't think clubs are going to be going in for him regarding this one. And Wizabet said Forest they're apparently lining up. So they're lining up Hackney for Anderson. So there will be options on the table for Anderson. So for Hackney, and this is what I was saying that United, I think we'd be at the front of the queue if we did want Hackney, but you can see that there's definitely going to be a few clubs, no, definitely going to be a few clubs looking at Hackney. This was kind of my argument all the time and saying, Sebastian, welcome to the chat. Said for some added money on the 30, we might get Scott, who actually played in the Premier League and is doing very well. So I think you have to look at it in terms of everybody's going to be everyone's going to have a different view on the transfers. So to put it into sort of perspective a little bit, I would say 30 million gets you a championship player, probably at the moment, based on this season, one of the best championship players, if not the best championship player. But then if you're looking at Hackney in a year's time, it's probably, I suppose, Sebastian, it might depend on where you see Hackney fitting in. If Manchester United actually bought, say, Tonali or Tchouaméni, or they go for another option which people have listed that's got Premier League experience, like an Alex Scott, for example. If you bought Hayden Hackney as well, then Hayden Hackney wouldn't be as progressed, but then I think you're getting a much cheaper deal. So if you're looking at one or the other, Alex Scott would probably have the well, probably would probably have the most impact. If you're looking at Fernandez at West Ham or Hackney, you're looking at a more advanced player in Fernandez as well. He's played at higher level. But if you're looking at signing three players, and maybe your third signing is going to be a cheaper option. And I think we've looked at Boadi in the past. We've looked at other ones as well. Say Gimares. Actually, that sounds right. Gim Gimares sounds right. So I'll use that if I can remember. I mean, the too many. I'm hoping that's right. I know I've seen people um, pronounce it quite differently a lot of times. But no, I agree. I think what you're looking at here is if Manchester United want to get one player for the sort of £30 million price point, Hayden Hackney is probably the best option. You probably have to go a little bit more expensive to get anything else. Any other player in the Premier League is not going to be that sort of price. The only thing I can think of is that maybe Mathis Mane at Wolves, who's a 19-year-old, and he would be about 30 million, a little bit like Delap last season was 30 million. But no, Hayden Hackney's a little bit older than those players, and he's been on the radar for a little bit longer. But again, it probably comes down to if Michael Carrick has some say, it could be a factor, couldn't it? Cake, welcome to chat, Cakes. You're quite keen on this, are you? It does seem to be that if Manchester United are actually looking at doing significant deals, and we're looking at trying to get a lot of deals done, then maybe the situation's going to be, maybe the situation's going to be that a Hayden Hackney deal makes a lot of sense in line with trying to get a really expensive player. So no one knows how much Baliba's going to cost. And I would say for United fans, I would say I wouldn't worry too much about individual cost of deals. It's about trying to address as many issues in the club as possible. So I think if we looked at trying to get if we're looking at trying to get three midfielders in, which I feel has got to be the target to try and get some depth, but also get a. It's not just about competition. I think it's also about different players. Like if you're looking at more of a six in too many, you could also be looking at getting maybe a couple of eights. So it's not that you have to play. It's not that too many's going to fight with one other player for his position. It might be that one game suits one player, suits another player. Also, too many is very experienced at centre back as well. He might not prefer playing there, but it might be that occasionally, defensive cover is important as well. I'm not sure we're going to spend big money on a centre back. I mean, this is kind of why I like the signing of Tchouaméni. He's got experience. He's got unbelievable experience, but he's also can play very well at centre back as well. It's something I would rather see him play as a CDM, but it's something that in an emergency, if Manchester United actually had Manu plus Belieber, and maybe in that game that's going to be a good option, and we can have too many in defence for one or two games because I know for whatever reason we do have injury issues with our centre backs. It could be quite a good signing. I think if you see a player linked to Manchester United that's versatile, then it does seem to be something they're looking at. So I think most of the signings we bought recently, apart from Lamans, I think most of the signings we bought could play multiple positions. Like Cunha and Mbeumo have done so, and we see maybe not Sesko, but we see other signings that could play more than one position. I think Mazraoui is quite a good example. Played a few different positions for United, and it might be something. But Cake says you hope the Glazers see this poll. I think most people are quite proactive, aren't they? So any signing we talk about will generally be quite well received. But at the moment, over 80% is pretty high, pretty high. I think the lowest we've had maybe was I'm trying to think, maybe the lowest was like Tonali, where people see him as quite expensive. But I'm going to jump into the chat, see what people's thoughts are. Hackney and Gomez says Real would be a good start. Then you guess that would be quite a cost effective start, wouldn't it? So I think Joe Gomez about 35, 40 is the best guess for that one. If Hayden Hackney, £30 million. If you can get two midfielders around that sort of price, I would suggest that then Manchester United, the third midfield signing then would be probably quite expensive, I'm guessing. But if you got Tonali Hackney, Gomez, you got CARRICK still. You can look at it and say that actually that's four good players, and the overall cost would be still reasonable considering what we're trying to do with the rest of the window. There's been quite a lot of stories this morning effectively saying that United are moving Agati out to Jim Radcliffe's adamant that there's certain players going to be going, and Xerxes still wanted by a couple of different teams as well. It looks like Juventus is linked to a few players, whether that actually happens or not. There has been like a lot of stories over the last 18 months with players linked to Italy. The only thing that's really happened, I suppose, we sold McTominay, and it looks like Rasmus will also be a done deal, and that will bring in 44 million euros. So lots of things moving in the right direction. The thing that's also seems to be paramount to Manchester United is they don't want to spend more than they think they need to. So I think they want to spend, they obviously got to spend to get some quality in. But I think if they see a deal being too expensive, just for example, if there's a player that's going to be 45, 50 million and they think Hayden Hackney is as good as that player or will be as good as that player in the near future, Hayden Hackney makes more sense. If you think that Alex Scott is going to be a better option than a player that's going to be potentially more expensive, he's a good option. I think with the best example of this is going to be the conversations we've had this morning, where if you take Tonali and potentially, if the price tag is genuinely 100 million, if you look at that, then okay, if Manchester United signed Tonali, I think most people would be happy and go, right, that's a good player we're getting in. But then if you look at potentially what you can do with the money and how you can buy other players, yeah, I think it's going to be definitely this one. I didn't see that. Is there another comment, Yari, that you're saying that the report Anderson was from the BBC? So apparently Manchester United are not giving up on Anderson, but I think at the moment it sounds really difficult to see. It seems difficult to see Manchester United getting Anderson, doesn't it? JDC said, "Would you spend 30 million for Hackney or 45 for Stiller?" I mean, at that price, you can get both, can you? So it's not really the price isn't necessarily a problem. I think that the difference is going to be that with Hayden Hackney, I think it means that you can spend pretty big on midfielders. But with Stiller, I think Stiller might cost slightly more, so it might be more like 52-ish. So it might be that he costs a bit more. So it depends on the competition for Angela Stiller regarding how much he's going to cost. I think Stuttgart want to get at least 50. So again, the question would be, I suppose, is if you want to spend 50 million pounds, then would Manchester United prefer to go for Angela Stiller from the Bundesliga, or would they prefer to go for possibly Alex Scott, who might be something similar? If Fernandez is available and West Ham get relegated, it depends, doesn't it? I think this is a difficult conversation because Christopher Vivell, I'm sure, would be pushing for moves like Angela Stiller. I'm sure Michael Carrick and probably the Glazers as well, because he's quite cheap. I think that that's going to be, um, yeah, quite good. I mean, Brill's saying cost effective. I think you can still. I think when I say cost effective, I don't mean that in a negative because I think if you got Lamans was a really cost effective signing, really really good, and that's an indication that signing Sen Lamens does show that you do not need to spend crazy amounts of money to get good players in. You can get some good options as well. I would say Gomez or yeah. If you're looking at maybe the better comparison would be, would you go for Edison at Atalanta or would you go for Angela Stiller? Just because in terms of like, both don't have Premier League experience. They both are experienced players as well, though. They have played a lot of football at a high level. So maybe Edison for 35 million pounds does seem like quite a good deal. He has agreed terms with Atletico Madrid. Manchester United are interested. I think you could probably look at these two and say I probably would lean towards Gomez at this moment in time, mainly because in the Premier League, a bit more experience. Edison's been linked for a couple of seasons. I think that Edison, I think, wants to go to Atletico. Really, I think he might suit that after playing in Serie A for a few years. The Premier League would still be a bit of a step up. So I think Gomez would have an impact from day one. Like day one, Gomez would have an impact. Edison, there's still I think it's slightly more risky. That he's obviously got some experience. I think United want to get an experienced player that's maybe considered a higher level quality player than Edison. But I think Edison is Atletico Madrid unless something dramatic happens. I think United. I think that's one of the players we're kind of monitoring, interested in regarding that one. Welcome, Clive, to the chat as well. Also I think I saw Howard there. Welcome to you, Howard. Yeah, Joe Gomez seems to be potentially, if Hayden Hackney's 30 million, I think Joe Gomez potentially could be the best priced player we could buy from midfield, unless West Ham get relegated. And if West Ham get relegated, I think there's going to be a big fight for Fernandez's signature. And I'm not sure whether Man United are positioned in a way to win that battle. That if you watch Paris Saint-Germain last night, and you'll know they are linked to Fernandez. I think it'd be a stretch for Man United to maybe get Fernandez to join Manchester United if Paris Saint-Germain are genuinely interested. The only question mark I would have is, do you get into that team? Like that Paris Saint-Germain team is ridiculous. So if you're signed by Paris Saint-Germain, are you just sat in the stadium watching the team win? Are you going to get into the team? It's going to be pretty tricky. Um, Winners of Bet says Hayden Hackney officially named Championship Player of the Season on April. This is like 10 days ago. It said let's bring him home. I mean, what's the likelihood? This is probably the second question, and I think JDC might not be on board with this one, but this probably this probably means that Manchester United have to make a decision about head coach quite quickly, and it means that Man United probably have to go right. Because I don't think Hackney's going to join if we get Nagelsmann. There may be no guarantees actually going to play many games. So I think the situation with this one is that United need clarification. The only question mark's going to be is if we see something happening with Anderson at City and we see Nottingham Forest genuinely looking to get Hackney. I think if you're looking at the way Nottingham Forest have been playing the last couple of years or been run as a club, Nottingham Forest is a really good stepping stone for players getting experience. And if they're looking for bigger moves, potentially that's a good option. You see Murillo, you've seen actually Anthony Elanga went to Nottingham Forest. It was a good move for him career wise. He played loads of games, had a big money move to Newcastle. So if you're looking to kind of kickstart your career, Nottingham Forest is probably a good team. Like they're in good form. And if you're looking at, for Hackney's point of view, this is, I think, quite tricky. If Forest are going to stay up, if they sell Anderson for big money, Hayden Hackney would represent a significant move for them to replace him, but also save loads of money. So if Anderson goes for 100, Hackney goes for 30, potentially Nottingham Forest have got a player that can, okay, maybe not do exactly what Anderson did in the first year, but they got £70 million to actually buy other players as well. So it makes good sense from Nottingham Forest. They bought a player for 35 million. They're trying to sell him for 100 plus. They then get the next replacement in at 30 million, and maybe they're hoping they can do something similar. If you think of Anderson a couple of years ago, wasn't really on people's radar. He was a promising player for Newcastle. And again, I suppose that the only links are they're both from the northeast, aren't they? But this is kind of what I'm thinking with. It makes a lot of sense from Middlesbrough's point of view. It does make sense from Nottingham Forest point of view. And if I was Hayden Hackney, it does actually make quite a lot of sense for you as a person as well. Like you see a lot of examples of players going through this. If he joins Manchester United, I think you'd have to accept that yeah, he's not going to be a first team player to start with. It's going to be quite tricky. But the question I've got, so you agree that if Hackney's wanted by United, it won't matter who the head coach is. Maybe possibly probably the flip side to that is if Michael Carrick's not head coach and Nagelsmann is, or would they be looking at Hayden Hackney? I think there's definitely lots of links at Hayden Hackney for two. Like one reason is obviously he's been the Championship Player of the Season, and I think he deserves a lot of credit. He's played extremely well. We talked about him last summer. We talked about him in January, and now we're talking about him again. As it just seems that his price was about 20 million a year ago, 30 million in January. It's not going up crazy. Do you know what the worst case scenario for me would be? Manchester United, I don't know, we don't sign him this season. Carrick stays on. Man United do quite well. We see a good season from Hackney in the Premier League, and then Manchester United look at trying to sign him, and he costs like 50 to 60 million. That they give him one good season in the Premier League. I think the price will just it will nearly double from 30 to 60, and then you'll think why? Because we have this conversation with a few players, don't we? Thinking why didn't we bring them in a year ago? So that's the thing. That's the thing that kind of sticks with me a little bit. So again, it's just that I know we're quite proactive. I know the club has different views. I know, but it just feels a bit like what's the worst situation that could happen? Like this is a player that I think is better than Nagate and more effective in a league. I don't think Agate would have the impact in the Championship. I think he would still be limited there. And so if Forrest are eyeing him as the replacement for Anderson, let's buy the replacement. Exactly. Lamans was the replacement for Emi Martinez at Aston Villa, and we got Lamans in, and it's the best signing we've made for years. Like really good signing. If Forrest are looking at Hackney, it's the same as like Brighton's replacement for Belieber. You got to look at these people and think, well, actually, we can get these. Um, so I'll go. So post more comment. I saw Debassi saying that as Carrick rigged the game from the start with Borough. I don't know. I think when we got Michael Carrick, I didn't think we were looking at Middlesbrough thinking let's raid them. I think if we got Luis Enrique, my first point would be can Cavashalia come with you, and can you get some of those other they get bring Bittner, but no, I think Wittner was at Wolves, wasn't he? And I think Wittner at Wolves, that's another player that maybe has slipped through Premier League teams' grasp. And I think Gomez, there's other players as well. We've got Cunha, there's players like Fernandez at West Ham. I think there's a lot of players that are playing for maybe the bottom five or six teams in the Premier League, the top sort of four or five teams in the Championship. And there's a lot of players there that you can pick up for about 30 million. And then in a couple of years' time, they're going to be at least double the value. So you can be a bit proactive, and this means United could effectively buy an extra two players. That's kind of the difference. And over a transfer window, that if you make these deals like now quite early, potentially the benefit in a few years' time is that even if Man United decide to sell some of these players, they might actually be making a profit, and that might then kind of fuel good transfer windows. But yeah, I agree with that one. So you think Hackney would come if we got Nagelsmann? Maybe. Yeah, that's a fair point actually. That's a fair point that I think Nagelsmann does like to mix things up a bit as well, doesn't he? So he does like to have a lot of tactical fluidity, which yeah, it's a good point. Um, so Funchy says Hackney's got a higher ceiling than Anderson. It's tricky, isn't it? But it's going to be potentially a third of the price. So again, I don't think that's what I'm saying. I do not think that you need to spend in modern football with all the scouting, and also I think the difference between good players, very, very good players, and elite players is getting smaller. So to get one of the best players in the world, I think there's very few players where you look at and think there's no player that can match what they do. I mean, I would say Manchester United have got Bruno Fernandes. I would say he's one of the unique players that I don't see players in other leagues or in other teams that can do quite what Bruno Fernandes does. I don't see a player like Haaland. I don't see a player like Mbappe. Like there's obviously good strikers. Harry Kane is a bit of a unique talent as well. Harry Kane's a different player to most players top flight football. There's just a few players that are unique. But I think when you look at Anderson, he's very good, and it's like Tonali's very good. But I think over 100 million, you can look at players that can maybe do something similar. Like, I don't think Nottingham Forest will sell Anderson and then get relegated, for example. I think they'll find the next talent, and then in a couple of years' time, that player will then be touted as being an 80, 100 million sort of player. But Big Dog says, after watching the PSG game last night, why can't we get a manager who plays that style of football? I would say if you put Luis Enrique in charge of Manchester United in January, Manchester United wouldn't be playing that style of football either. So you're going to have to change the squad to play that sort of football. Paris Saint-Germain didn't start playing that football overnight. It's taken significant transfer windows and shaping the squad in a different way to do that. So yeah, if Manchester United got Luis Enrique, what I would say is that potentially, you know, one of the key pieces in terms of how you want to play, he's there, but Luis Enrique would have to have some power. You'd have to have some influence with people at high level at Manchester United to get the sort of players he needs to play that sort of football. So I think if you look at Manchester United's squad, then Luis Enrique and Nagelsmann, they're not going to be able to replicate things they've done in the past. They're going to have to actually look at it and say, what can they do? Carrick, like, I don't think Carrick's doing exactly what he wants to do at Manchester United because he doesn't have the same profile of players. So if you want Carrick to replicate what he did at Middlesbrough, then he's going to need probably different fullbacks. He's going to need it's going to need upgrades in different positions. If Luis Enrique wants to have a team that can destroy Bayern Munich with that sort of amazing football, then if you give Luis Enrique Manchester United with all the pre-seasons in the world, they're not going to be that level. So you have to. The most important thing for me is going to be improve the squad. And if you get a head coach, it's a fact. It's one factor, but I think you need the squad needs to be improved, and you need to get the best head coach possible. All I'm saying is that I'm not going to make excuses, but Michael Carrick's picked up more points than any other Premier League team since he took over. The question mark's always going to be that if you're going to be, yeah, say great game for neutral, but yeah, defensively, I suppose 5-4 in the end, not great. But you're looking at the situation with, I think, differently. That if Manchester United are looking to build over the next 2 or 3 years to a point where they can get to that level, then that's a good question because you don't know whether Michael Carrick's that person. And to be honest, we don't. No one knows that. No one knows how good Michael Carrick can be doing but with better players. So I think with United, either you go for if you can if there is a head coach like Luis Enrique available or Nagelsmann is available, I think there's loads of good arguments to get them in. Like I'm not saying that we shouldn't get them in. I'm saying there's loads of good arguments. But if Michael Carrick stays in charge, I don't think I'm going to be. I'm not going to be negative in the way you're thinking it will never happen because I don't know. With better football players, then things can change quite quickly. And United are going to be buying a completely different midfield this season. We're looking at left back. We're looking at potential centre. We are looking at the next generation. All our players will improve as well. Aiden Heaven, Dorgu, Yoro, these are all going to improve. Kobe Mainu is going to improve. I mean, Kobe Mainu's like game against a very good Brentford team a couple of nights ago was really good, and he's just turned 21. So if you fast forward 2 or 3 years, a lot of these younger players will be much improved. So let's say these PSG have spent a fortune on players, an absolute fortune on players that gone for. Even the players they got now did cost a fortune. So don't buy into any kind of like that. They sold okay, they sold Mbappe for a lot of money. They sold a lot of these players for big money, but they have invested an insane amount of money. So I think Middlesbrough were nearly relegated when he took over. So he did improve them from where they were. But yeah, every manager leaves the club when they get sacked after a bad run, don't they? So I'm just saying Middlesbrough is different to Man United. PSG is different to Manchester United. I mean, if you put Michael Carrick in charge of Paris Saint-Germain, I think he's got more chance of success than Luis Enrique does with the current Manchester United squad. So Nagelsmann prizes midfielders who can bypass lines with one pass. Hackney, who ranks in the top 1% for progressive passes in the championship. But this is why I think you make a good point actually that if you think about it, the news article that started the story and kind of got us talking about it was that there's a lot of links, and this is not my opinion, and it's not people's opinion generally, but journalists are essentially saying that we'll buy Hackney if Michael Carrick's in charge. And I think that's what the journalists are pushing out there because he was very successful for Michael Carrick. But it could be that Manchester United, they will have spoken to Carrick about Hackney, and regardless of whether Carrick stays, Hackney's still a good option. So I think that most of the press will be thinking, is Hackney going to join because sometimes I think it's the same as Ruben Amorim and Manchester United been linked to Sporting Lisbon players. And as much as he achieved at Sporting Lisbon, the Portuguese league is very, very different to the Premier League. So to drop players like Hjulmand or drop players like Gyökeres into the Premier League, you're not going to get exactly the same results. Like Gyökeres is a decent player. He was very good a very good player in the Championship for Coventry. He was very good for Sporting Lisbon. But you drop him in the Premier League and the levels up that goes up a lot. So I think there's always this argument that people think it's because of I think it's almost a bit unfair to Hayden Hackney to because people think right he's going to be a Man United signing because of Carrick, whereas I think you've got to look at Hayden Hackney in isolation and go this is like the best player in the Championship at the moment, and it's thirty million pounds, and he's a midfielder. We're crying out for midfielders. He's potentially a serious contender with Kobe Mainoo as well in terms of what he does. He's got a slightly different skill set, progressive passing, unbelievable. That is one of the things that I think Casemiro is very good at. So it's one of the things that is a massive weakness in Agate's game. That when Agate's on the ball, he's so limited. And I think Hayden Hackney, if he came to Man United, it feels like I'm doing a campaign to get Hackney. If Hackney came to Manchester United, there wouldn't be unbelievable pressure for him to be a first team player either. So he could be, it could be starting games coming off the bench. He could be eased in slowly to the because the Premier League is obviously a bit of a level up from the Championship as well. Even though I think the Championship for me is actually quite a good indicator of how people cope with physicality of the English game, and I think the French League actually is quite a good one as well. So I think Hackney could potentially hit the ground running a little bit quicker than a signing from a different league, and but also be genuine competition. It could be good though as well because I think someone like Kobe Mainu, like Agate's no competition, but having someone like Hackney, having another younger player, could be quite good. I think it's quite good to have a sort of healthy competition, but also a good kind of good range of profiles in the club. Oh, I did see the Kadioglu stuff. It's something I might. We did cover it a bit last night. So because Jules did a big stream looking at defensive players, I said this as well. Last year I was talking about Kadioglu. I really liked him. The guest I had at the time was a massive Kadioglu fan. I think he might have cost like 20 million, 25 million at the time. And I think I did a stream talking about Kadioglu, saying like get him in, like he's really good, exciting player. But yeah, no, he would be. I think the thing we said as well that I agree 100% Punchy. When we talked about Kadioglu last season, it was like the versatility, left back, right back, midfield. He's kind of coming into the fore a little bit recently, has been in good form, and yeah, he would be potentially about 40 million. I think is that going to be that sort of thing. I'll be up to you, Nems, as well. I don't know if I said hello. No, so I think potentially Kadioglu could be a good option. Like for if it's 40 million, I think 40 million is a good deal considering Kadioglu could play left, could play right. And then you could look at maybe that some I don't think Dali's going to go anywhere, but you could be looking at someone that can effectively be genuinely serious competition for Luke Shaw. If not, then taking Luke Shaw's place. That could be that for 40 million pounds. I think that's a good deal. If that's the price, I think that is roughly the price. So that for me would be decent. So yeah, I think that's what I saw. 25 million last season felt like it was a literally a no-brainer. It felt like literally a no-brainer. Yeah, as I was saying, I think the French league is a good indication. If you're good in the French league, I think that the Premier League is a good fit physically as well. It's one of the. This is my view. People have different views, but when I saw Turkey last season, I thought Turkey would be a great signing for Man United. Like really good. Get Turkey in, and City got a good player. He wasn't going to be, wasn't too expensive. Maybe the other question I should have asked is, yeah, maybe I am. The thing is, when you do a stream and you start looking at players, where they fit into Manchester United, are they good options? And you look at everything in terms of like, what's the mentality of Hackney? Right, Hackney was linked with Premier League clubs last season. There was big links between Hackney and Spurs. I think Spurs were actually speaking to Middlesbrough, and in the end decided to go for Gallagher, but they were actually seriously talking about it. And there's been no drama from Hackney. He's not pushing to move to a Premier League club. He effectively put in like some of the best performances of his career since January. So mentality wise, I think it's good. He's not been unsettled by links to big Premier League teams, and performance has been good. Price is really good. The profile fits. It makes a lot of sense. So I think there's not many better ways of spending about 30 million pounds. So yeah, that's to be honest. I've made this kind of joke about Binder as well. That when you start looking at it, you think, yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? Mark says players like Coney won't get a chance. Yeah, this is a tricky one, isn't it? I think with the amount of games and with the amount of football Manchester United are playing next season, then that maybe Coney. I think you'd have a look at it and say maybe Coney would get a chance. But I think maybe with unfortunately with Coney, I don't think the loan deals have been going that well, and it's been a bit of you know a bit of a bad season for him after the injury. So maybe Kone's a little bit. Maybe it's a little bit too soon for Kone, but hopefully, I think Coney needs a good loan, like a really good loan, and then can try and force his way in. The problem with Man United, I think, is that they're trying to do things quite quickly, and yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like what it could be is if you imagine the situation with Ahmad Jallow, then he was at Manchester United for years before he actually got into the first team. I think Ahmad Jallow, it might be the sort of same thing. So he had a loan to Rangers, didn't work out. Loan to Sunderland was really good. I think Hayden Hackney is probably sorry. I think Kone is maybe needs a good loan, get some experience, and then because I think the level up of Manchester United is going to be quite tricky. But yeah, Mark, we could have, couldn't we? I can't honestly remember if there was a serious offer for Ugarte on the table, but I think there might have been interest from Galatasaray. And at the moment, apparently Juventus are interested in Ugarte, and there is like rumours. I don't know where the rumours are coming from, but there's rumours like Newcastle. I don't honestly. If Ugarte goes to Newcastle, it will be such a strange situation. But we'd have to see. No, I think if Kone comes back, you could look at maybe cup games and things. But I think with development wise, it might be good to try and look at a loan deal. Maybe the championship might be quite good. Like I think the championship for me would be if you saw the Almajolu at Sunderland, I think that the championship could be the best option. Like if you can find a team that's not too far from Manchester, could be a good option for him to go there, and that might be something that works well. It's tricky though, isn't it? It's really difficult balancing act trying to bring younger players through, but also looking at trying to make sure the team's really good next season. So I think signing someone like Hayden Hackney that is a couple of years more advanced, I don't think it's a problem for Kone. I think he still have hopefully still gets a lot of opportunities. I think he just needs one good loan. And welcome, Mr. B. Good to see you. You're saying Hackney for 30 million is a no-brainer. You'd say he's got plenty more development to come. So yeah, this is probably the key as well, that he's going to improve a lot over the next couple of seasons. And then a 30 million pound player rapidly becomes a 60 million pound player. The worst case scenario is he goes to Forest and we're linked to him next season for double the cash. That's literally how about two or three transfers have gone over the last couple of days. It's not ideal. And Wiz the bet saying Kone needs to bulk up. So yeah, his skill set's really good. Like he was really promising. It just it's just so unlucky that he got the injury at the start of the season because Manchester United's midfield was like not functioning great. He might have got a couple of games, might have got some cup games at that point in time, and it's just like at that point in your career, you're kind of like a few games away from actually doing something, aren't you? Like we saw Garnacho, and when he broke through, he had a bit of an impact. We saw Koemanu when he broke through, he had an impact. So yeah, it's tricky. There's options there, but I think that it's good to have these options. And if they go on loan deals and improve a lot, yeah, we've got some options coming through. It's not the worst problem in the world having academy players that are good enough, but I think you need to try and make sure that we avoid the situation with Alvaro Fernandez. And I wouldn't want to see Man United keep Kone as part of our setup and not use him. Like loan him out, get him to play games. Because I think the Alvaro Fernandez situation, he was at Man United for about 3 years, played about two games, so of course he wasn't going to stay. So you're based in Cardiff, and I'm assuming, saying you think JJ Gabriel, Lacey, and Obi need to come to Cardiff on loan. I think I'm assuming Cardiff are still in the Championship. I mean, I know Leicester got relegated, but I think if you're looking at loans to Championship clubs, maybe Chido Obi, but he might be, it might be something like that. He needs a loan deal where he can prove that he's good enough for first team football as well. But I think he's not. He was amazing a year ago, but I think he's found it a bit more difficult. But no, Lacey, I think is going to be. I think Lacey will be around the first team, and potentially because we haven't got lots of options, I think Lacey might be one of those players that potentially has a bit of a breakout season or some more opportunities at least. JJ Gabriel, I think we have to fight Barcelona to keep him. To be honest, that might be a tricky one, a bit of a tricky one. Mark said Bayern will still win. Well, yeah, maybe if Bayern win, maybe Luis Enrique. I think if Paris Saint-Germain win everything again, I think he'll stay at the club. But Yeah, maybe something happens. If Bayern win the Champions League, then maybe we can go out, Luis Enrique, come to us and rebuild. I don't know. It's a bit of a tricky one, isn't it? I think overall, though, that the Hackney situation for me, if Carrick doesn't stay as head coach, I think Hackney should probably still be certainly up there as like one of our better options as well. So if there's any sort of midfield conversations, do you look at in terms of like if we got Hayden Hackney, would you be happy then for Manchester United to spend quite big on Tonali, for example? Because I was thinking as the overall, if you're looking at the overall situation, because like Mark's got so actually, yeah, when you look at it, I would so what I was thinking, like you're kind of thinking it on a different way, which I do quite like though. But you said if you're looking at Hackney for 30 million, you could get Belieber, Stiller, and Joe Gomez for under sort of 200 million, and I'd say Stiller's like 50-ish, Gomez about 40, that's 90. 120 with Hackney in there, so and Belieber. I think you can get this deal. You can get all of them for probably like closer to 180, maybe. So you could spend 180 million pounds on midfield, and these are probably like apart from Belieber, they're probably like actually three really sensible cost like price wise deals, aren't they? If you replace Belieber with say like Adam Wharton or Alex Scott, you could still get four players done, couldn't you? So it's like the only thing that would make it more expensive is probably a too many or a Tonali, and I think that and Anderson probably Anderson might be a bit more expensive, but you could. I don't think United would get four midfielders, but I mean it'd be quite nice if they did, but it would be a bit of a surprise if they spent that if they spent all the money on midfield. I think most likely they'll get three players. Mark is my guess, and then I would prefer to get three midfield players, and then maybe look at left back. If we replaced one of those players, I'm not sure which one for Kadioglu, I would think actually that's yeah that would be for me pretty good. And if we looked at, I'm just trying to think of other options. So I think they might go for the players you've listed. I think Believe and Stiller are probably still some of the most likely. And if you're thinking that United, if we're generally going to spend quite big on a left wing player as well, and look at defensive options, then potentially for 300 million, I think you can get loads of things done as well. Also, the good thing about this one is that you've got a situation where none of these players are going to be on like say 300k a week, are they? They're going to be sensible salaries. And Stephanie says get João Gomez in first. Yeah, I mean apparently Leeds are after João Gomez, so what better reason than to get a good player in and also stop Leeds getting a good player? So yeah, Joe Gomez would be good. I always kind of rate a lot of Wolves players because Wolves have always been a team that have got fight, and if you can get some of those players in your team, look at what what Cunha brings to our team. It's like he's a battler, but he's also got some quality, and I think that's what Wolves had. Not this season, but they kind of lost a lot. But what is their actual budget? I think our actual budget has got to be at least like generally it's at least 200. Like I think Cody's right. Our budget is usually about 200, 250. This season we're making some sales though. We're making significant sales which might add up to like about 100 million pounds. So we should be able to spend, if you look at the rules of football and the financial rules, we could spend like probably over 300, but I don't think we would. And I don't think if we spent 300 to 350, that would probably address everything we want to do. I don't think we will do that, but I think it's also you'd have to almost get like not near perfect window, but you'd have to make sure that nothing spirals out of control. Then if you start looking at a too many signing, I think potentially I think potentially it could be trickier because too many would be quite expensive. But it's this feels like a difficult deal, doesn't it? So when I'm looking at deals, like Hackney's an easy deal. It's 30 million pounds. It'll be straightforward. Like we know that Middlesbrough want that amount of money, get the deal done. This looks like that this looks like the most difficult deal. Too many for me looks like the most improbable, but possibly one of the bigger, well, probably one of the better fits for the Casemiro replacement. So it feels like I think United will be kind of. dragged along until there's an announcement either way. But I would be like 95% sure that Too Many is going to sign an extension. I don't know what other people think. It just feels like it feels like a really good option to replace Casemiro, but I can't see it happening. I can't see Too Many walking away from Real Madrid to a bit of a project in the Premier League. So yeah, that's kind of my view. I think that Hayden Hackney could be done really, really quickly. So Andy Mitten said it's possible. It's possible, isn't it? But when Manchester United say something's difficult, or if Fabrizio says it's difficult, I just think it's. I changed the word difficult to unlikely, and just think it doesn't. I can't really sit here and say I think Too Many will happen. I think there's always a chance, but again, yeah, if Madrid if Madrid went for Enzo, I don't know if Madrid actually go for a different signing. What if Madrid went for Anderson? Can you imagine that? So there are a few things that could happen, and yeah, you never know in football that things can change quite quickly. And if for whatever reason, if Too Many really wants to leave Real Madrid for different reasons other than like the team is obviously a good team at the moment, if he wants to leave for different reasons and Real Madrid look for different options, then Real Madrid don't waste time too much, do they? So if Too Many's definitely not going to sign the contract, then Real Madrid would probably take the cash and move him on. But if I was doing a poll about whether Man United get Too Many, I think most people would think he would stay. And I think Belieber should be easy, shouldn't it? But Brighton aren't an easy team to deal with, are they? So I think Belieber should be easy if Brighton play ball. That's probably the one where I'm not sure about that one. I think it should be easy, but I'm a bit concerned that it might not be easy, if that makes sense. But if anyone's got any final questions, we have been covering a lot about Hackney today. A little bit of a refresh on what we've been talking about. So we thought we'd cover a different story. We've got Hackney. We have talked a little bit about Kadioglu, but also too many seems to be there. Maybe we will look at the Belieber situation if there's updates later in the day in the 1 p.m. stream, but hopefully there'll be a bit more information coming out. But if anyone's got any final points, I did have a poll running, so I did say I will find out what people think regarding this one. And it looks like overwhelming popularity for getting him done. For I think the price is definitely a factor, but should United buy Hackney for 30 million? Yes, say 84%, no, say 16%. So overwhelmingly in favour, people watching of getting Hayden Hackney, which makes a lot of sense given the price, given the player. So lots of positives there. If anyone's got any sort of final comments they want to say, I can put a couple on screen to go through them. But so I think we've kind of agreed as a group that Hayden Hackney is a bit of a no-brainer. We should try and get him. So yeah, it could be that I think Bayern Munich are linked to a lot of players, aren't they? But I mean, but Bayern Munich are essentially doing what I wanted to do years ago, getting a Harry Kane, and it's working really well for them. They've been a top team for the last couple of seasons, and maybe they get another Champions League. Maybe they do that. So it's going to be a good battle in the next week, isn't it? But yeah, so Belieber. Now, if Brighton want money for Belieber, they're probably just going to have to accept that they'll still get a lot as well. Yeah, don't forget to click the like. Don't forget to subscribe if you want Manchester United to beat Liverpool on the weekend. And don't forget to check out the stream in a few hours' time, 1 p.m. this afternoon, and say, okay, you gave me this test before, and you say, I've got £200 million to spend. Who do I go for? Right, based on your list, I think Too Many is number one to replace Casemiro. I've got 120 left. So, wow. If I think Man United would get Belieber, but that would leave me 35. So I'd have to go for Hackney, maybe. Maybe I'm looking at Too Many Belieber and Hackney as three different profile players. So I might go for that, but I probably have a different view each day. Based on those prices you got on the screen, though, I'd probably do that. I'd quite like to see Manchester United try and go for Buwadi, but 50 million, I don't think we would. Angela Stiller, I think, is likely. I think United most likely deals would be Stiller, Belieber, and maybe tricky one. Tricky one. I think they might go for Tonali, but that's over budget. So I'm thinking it's a bit tricky. Howard says, I just get worried Seen too many players could upset the apple cart too much. Spend big and spend sensible is all I'm saying. No, I think you need to make sure you get guarantee. You need to make sure you get quality, don't you? I think what I was looking at was if Manchester United are going to play a 50 plus game season, then you have at the moment for two positions in the 4-2-3-1, we've only got co-main at the club. So if you get three people in and have variations of that as well. I'm not saying we should have like one team for the Champions League, one team for the Premier League, but I think there's enough there where you can approach things differently. But I think Hayden Hackney represents a player that would come in. He wouldn't be expecting to start above someone like Tchouaméni or Belieber necessarily, but he would be looking to play significant games over the season. So again, I don't think you can sign Tonali, Tchouaméni, and Anderson. They're just all they're just it'd be all fighting for like starting positions, but I think you can get some sort of balance. But yeah, quality over quantity, 100%, 100%, and that's why I say like if you buy one player that's going to be the right profile to play most games, then you can build around those players, can't you? It's like getting if we got Kadioglu and we've got someone that can play left back or right back for 40 million, it's not a bad deal, is it? You have to find someone pretty good to be a better option at the moment. Say Scott has to be on any list. He probably is. Scott is probably on any list. But again, I think like Wizard Better was typing a list of players, but you can only put so many characters in a comment anyway, so it's pretty tricky. If you're not involved, there is a Discord group which I think it's got about 68 people in it at the moment, and we're starting to build that up a bit as well. So if you're on Discord, please check out the Discord server on the United Socials link that's at the top of the screen. If you're on Facebook and want to join the United TV group on Facebook, again, you don't have to follow anybody. Then Cody's like monitoring that as well and posting things. So if you want to get involved in the socials, please have a look at the links. We're gradually building them up over time. I think the Facebook group is close to 30. The Discord's close to 70 now. So there's a decent amount of people in there. And I think these will grow over time as well, and they're a good resource and kind of a good thing to build around what we're trying to do on this channel. And it's a way also there will be opportunities for people that want to come on and get involved in the conversation. We will be doing more calling shows in a slightly different format. So please get involved if you want to talk to people or talk to myself or Jules or talk to Wizard Better or talk to Helgi. There will be like a guest host for these as well. So hopefully the community will be, yeah, definitely growing in a good way. I was about to wrap up, but I'll just take a couple of comments from people that just joining the chat as well. TJ, welcome to the chat. It says there are good quality midfielders out there, and they're not 100 million. 100%, 100%. Like Manchester United do not need to spend 100 million, and I think Newcastle must realise that. If Man City want to do it, they can do that. It's just like that the only people that think Tonali is £100 million player are Newcastle and maybe Newcastle fans. That I don't think Manchester United see him as £100 million player. If he is, if they do, then yeah, we'll have a serious stream to discuss that because that would be yeah, I don't think it'd be worrying or it'd be good that Man United are looking at good players, but it would be a lot of money. Good question, Genghis. I think people are still pretty keen on Buhari and say he's still been doing well. But again, he's one that is really difficult to talk about with how you're doing in the Premier League. But someone doing well in the French league, I think, is a good indication. So with Buhari, maybe you're looking at a little bit now. Turkey was about 2021, wasn't he? And putting up really great numbers and playing really well in the French league. So I think with Buhari that the move is there at some point. They just want to get a big price for him. So yeah, I think the price is like too high, isn't it, for some of these players? But no, United can change the perspective. I think it's not just United. I think Liverpool massively overpaid on Isak. There's no like Isak's good, Verts is good, and they had good seasons, their respective clubs, but the price was really high for them. I think Walter Maida was quite high. Ekitike was pretty high. Gyökeres, Sesko were similar prices. I don't think it's just Manchester United. I think so if you forget about previous years, if you base it on the last summer, I don't think Manchester United got fleeced like we used to do. So no, I don't think we actually had those sort of issues over the last 12 months. Yeah, no, I think you have to look at it and say everybody's got a different list, haven't they? Because Hackney's 30 million. Honestly, the thing I've seen just now is like Mark and other people is that at that price, can you get four midfielders? I think four midfielders plus Koeman already there, plus Kone, or potential academy options in the future. I think three for me feels like the right number. I think if you go beyond three, then I would start looking at other aspects of the team, and I'd start looking at left back, left wing, backup striker. Centre. I'd look at beyond three midfielders. I think I'd start looking around the squad and thinking, if we're going to get a fourth signing, it doesn't a midfield signing would feel a bit like overkill. Get three very good players alongside Manu, and that's probably job done. Yes, Sesko did. He did turn out to be a better deal. So I don't. That's my point. I don't think we overpaid for any player last season. Like when you consider is 55 plus five, and Gittins is 60, and other players, other examples, I don't think we overpaid, and I don't think we will. But I'm gonna have to head off, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Appreciate you getting part of the community, getting involved with this community as well. If you like the stream, please share it with other football like-minded individuals you know as well as we try and grow the community. And also, if you didn't see last night, Jules was a guest host on the channel last night. Did a really good breakdown of a few different defensive targets. So he was talking about Kadioglu, talking about Murillo, a little bit about Van der Ven, and also about Koeman's contract as well. So if you didn't see the stream last night, that's a good one to check out. Jules did a great job, and I'll be back live at 1 p.m. this afternoon with hopefully whatever the midday news is, whatever stories come out. It's probably going to involve midfielders, but we'll see what's trending, and we'll cover that. Until then, guys, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.